Well, hello, Grace Church. Here we are almost halfway through our Grace Changes Everything series. I hope you're doing well, and I hope what I'm about to say benefits you. Last week we talked a little bit about saving grace, or we talked a lot about saving grace actually, and the fact that it's God's grace that saves us when we put our faith in Him and our faith in the fact that He sacrificed on the cross. This week I want to talk to you something a bit different, and it's called sanctifying grace. Sanctifying grace is that grace that transforms us. The saving grace we talked about last week is awesome, but it doesn't stop there. Sanctifying grace takes it a bit further. It's that grace, when consciously nurtured, can transform our lives into a life of Christian perfection. I often describe it to our students like this. You see, my family and I some time ago lived in a neighborhood in Mount Pleasant called Pleasantwood neighborhood, and I can always remember this little illustration because we'd always come to this one stop sign, and at the stop sign to go to our house we'd take a left. No matter where we were coming from, no matter if we were coming from church or from small group or from work or from the grocery store or wherever, we would have to turn left. Well, a few years ago we moved to a different house. Obviously, moved to a different house, different subdivision, different direction to get there. So it came to where we would have to turn right at this stop sign in order to get to our house rather than left. It took a while to get used to that, obviously. For years and years we were used to turning left at that stop sign instead of turning right, and now we had to turn right every time if we wanted to go home. So a few months in, it finally clicked with me that we had to turn right to go home. We couldn't turn left anymore, and I had to tell myself over and over and over that left was the wrong way. We had to turn right. We didn't want to go that way anymore. We had to consciously remember, my wife and I, as we were driving home, that was the wrong way. It wasn't easy always. The house we used to live in, see, it kind of represents our old way of life. The new house represents the new way of life that God provides. You see, we had to transform ourselves into turning right to go home rather than left. Is it always easy? Yes, it's easy for us to fall back into our old way of life once we've been transformed by sanctifying grace. Sure it is. But what are some ways that we can consciously nurture ourselves to stay God's way? One is we must die to ourselves. It says in Galatians 2:20 through 21, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me. I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing. You see, take off on a rabbit trail here real quick, that if righteousness could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing. So we have to die to ourselves and follow Christ. He died for us, so we must follow Him. You see, our pride gets in the way and makes us think that we can live our lives how we want to live them and still follow Jesus. This is not true. We want to tell ourselves if we buy people something, if we serve our community, we buy someone's lunch, or any good deed that we might do will get us further in the kingdom. This is not true. In a practical sense, what we have to do is take the keys to the car and hand them over to Jesus and say, here, you drive. And guess what? For some of us, that's really hard. For some of us, it's even harder because we like to be backseat drivers, or we think that God needs a co-pilot. Another way that you can consciously nurture this is to participate in the means of grace. And those means of grace have been provided by Jesus on the cross. And they could be things such as fellowshipping with your small group, spiritual disciplines that you participate in, such as tithing, such as praying, such as fasting, meditation. There are many, many of those that will help you consciously nurture your walk with Jesus. In Romans 12:2, Paul writes, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." Some of us are already in the transforming process. We decided long ago that we wanted to live for Jesus, and we were going to take the back seat and let Jesus take over our lives and drive. And we're in that process. But are we truly consciously nurturing that process? Are we doing our part in the process? Have you grown in grace since your salvation? It doesn't stop at salvation. It goes further, and that's what we're talking about, sanctifying grace. Some of us have decided to be transformed. Have you decided to no longer live where you used to live? Have you decided to no longer turn left at the stop sign? God has already done His part by providing the sanctifying grace. He gave Himself on the cross for us. Are we ready to give all of ourselves to Him? Are we ready to drop everything we have and give it to Jesus? Are we ready to transform our lives? Have you decided to be transformed? Have you decided to no longer live where you used to live? Have you decided to stop turning left at the stop sign and turn right? Is that just natural for you to turn right now? Are you already transformed by the sanctifying grace of our Lord Jesus? God has already done His part. He has already provided the sanctifying grace. He gave all of Himself for us on the cross. Will we do our part? We give all of ourselves for Him here on earth? I hope that your small group discussion goes well tonight, and I hope what I've said has spoke to you in some way. Thank you.